When a billionaire adopts a girl from the streets, she becomes the spoiled princess of his mansion. But years later, reckless scandals shatter the family's image, forcing father and daughter into a painful battle between love, regret, and redemption. Before we dive into this unforgettable tale, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join the Luxury Tales by SK family. Subscribe now, and let's begin this incredible journey together. In the heart of Ikoyi, Lagos, behind tall, wrought-iron gates and walls dressed in creeping bougainvillea, stood the Adeyemi Mansion, a palace of marble floors, chandeliers, and the faint hum of air conditioning in every corner. Chief Adeyemi, one of Nigeria's most powerful real estate tycoons, lived here with his wife Efe. For 20 years, their home had been filled with wealth, influence, and silence. They had everything except a child. Doctors from Lagos to London had confirmed it. They would never have one of their own. The grief was a quiet shadow in their marriage until one rainy evening when fate stepped in. While driving back from a charity gala in Victoria Island, Efe spotted a girl sitting on the wet pavement under the Falomo Bridge. She was no older than 8, wearing a faded green dress, her hair knotted, eyes dark with hunger. "What's your name, my dear?" Efe asked gently. "Amina," the girl whispered, voice trembling. Something in Efe's heart shifted. She turned to her husband. "Chief, let's take her home, just for tonight." That tonight became forever. Amina was adopted within the month. The media loved the story. Billionaire couple rescues orphan from streets, and the Adeyemis loved the new laughter echoing through their halls. But as the years passed, the laughter grew into something else. The orphan girl they had saved became the family's only princess, and the way they treated her would plant seeds that would one day bear bitter fruit. From the moment Amina set foot in the Adeyemi mansion, her life changed like night to day. No more sleeping under bridges, no more fighting stray dogs for scraps of bread. Now it was silk bed sheets, a room bigger than the orphanage she once dreamed about, and servants who bowed when she walked past. At first, she clung to Efe like a shadow, shy, quiet, unsure if all this could disappear overnight. But Efe smothered her with affection. "You're our daughter now," she would say, kissing her forehead. Chief Adeyemi, though more reserved, found himself smiling whenever Amina called him daddy. School followed. Not just any school, Queen's Gate International in Lekki, where the children of politicians and CEOs studied. On her first day, Amina stepped out of a black Range Rover with a diamond-studded hair clip and a new iPhone. Classmates whispered, "The new girl, the billionaire's daughter." But Amina noticed something. The whispers weren't all admiration. Some eyes lingered too long, calculating, envious. One afternoon, a classmate named Tenny approached her. "I heard you weren't always rich," she said, tilting her head. Amina froze. "What do you mean?" "They say Chief Adeyemi just picked you up from the street? That true?" Amina's cheeks burned. She turned away, but the words stuck like a thorn. She had never asked the Adeyemis why they chose her. Did they really see her as their child, or just as a story to tell? At home, she tried to ignore it, burying herself in gifts, designer clothes, imported chocolates, trips to Dubai. But every so often she'd catch Chief looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. One night she overheard muffled voices from the study. "She's getting too demanding, Ife," Chief said. "Every week it's something new, another shopping trip, another tantrum. We're raising her to believe the world owes her." "She's been through enough," Efe replied sharply. "If spoiling her heals her scars, then so be it." Amina pressed her ear harder against the door, heart thudding. Chief sighed, "I don't want to regret this." Those words sank deep. Regret? The next day, Amina woke before sunrise, slipping out onto the balcony of her room. From there, she could see the city, the chaotic traffic on 3rd Mainland Bridge, the rooftops of shanties far in the distance, and the high-rises gleaming in the morning light. She thought of the bridge she once called home, the smell of roasted corn mixing with exhaust fumes, the cold rain seeping into her bones. For a moment, she missed it, the certainty of knowing who she was, even if she had nothing. Now she had everything. Yet a question gnawed at her. Was she truly their daughter, or just an ornament in their perfect life? As the sun rose higher, she made a silent promise to herself. If the Adeyemis ever regretted taking her in, She would make sure they regretted it for the right reasons. Amina's transformation had begun, and so had the slow, silent drift between parent and child. The weeks that followed felt like a slow shift in the Adeyemi household, subtle at first but impossible to ignore. Amina, once timid and eager to please, began to act like a queen in her own right. Servants who failed to answer her bell quickly enough were met with sharp words. She demanded imported perfumes, limited edition sneakers, and weekend getaways with friends to Abuja or Cape Town. At Queensgate International, her classmates now called her Her Highness. The name started as a joke, but she wore it like a crown. When a teacher scolded her for skipping assignments, she smirked. "Do you know who my father is?" Chief Adeyemi heard whispers from his business associates. "Your girl dey scatter everywhere," one friend joked over drinks. "If you no hold 'em well, she go embarrass you one day." The warning unsettled him. One Friday evening at the family dining table, Amina announced casually, "Daddy, I need $5 million for my birthday party." Chief almost choked on his water. $5 million for a party? Amina, that is excessive." "It's not excessive if I'm inviting the whole class and some celebrities," she replied without looking up from her phone. "I want Burna Boy to perform." Afe chuckled nervously. "Chief, it's just once a year." "It's not about the money, F.A., he said, voice tightening. "It's about the message we're sending." Amina dropped her phone, eyes narrowing. "Message? You think I'm ungrateful? I didn't ask to be here. You brought me into this life. Don't start acting like you can take it back." The words hit Chief like a slap. He said nothing more that night, but the wound lingered. Days later, trouble arrived in the form of a phone call. It was from the school principal. "Chief, I'm sorry to inform you, your daughter and a group of friends were caught damaging school property. Apparently, they wanted to film a TikTok stunt." Chief's heart sank. That evening, he confronted Amina in the living room. "Do you know the embarrassment you've caused me? This is not how I raised you." Amina crossed her arms. "You didn't raise me. You just upgraded me. There's a difference." The words twisted like a knife. From that moment, the atmosphere in the mansion changed. Chief became colder, his conversations with her short and formal. F.A. tried to mediate, reminding him of the little girl they'd rescued, but even she began to feel the strain. Amina, meanwhile, buried herself deeper in her social world. Private yacht parties in Banana Island, endless shopping in Dubai, luxury photo shoots for Instagram. The more Chief tried to pull her back, the more she pushed against him. The unspoken tension hung heavy, each day adding another brick to the invisible wall between them. And somewhere deep inside, Chief Adeyemi began to feel the creeping shadow of the word he had once feared most: regret. The breaking point came on a sweltering Saturday in December, 2 weeks before Christmas. The Adeyemis had been invited to a high-profile charity gala at the Echo Hotel, an event where Lagos's elite gathered in glittering gowns and designer suits. Chief had insisted Amina attend. "It's time you saw what real responsibility looks like," he'd told her. But Amina had other plans. When the black Rolls-Royce pulled up to the red carpet, photographers flashed their cameras, but only F.A. and Chief stepped out. The murmurs began almost instantly. "Where's their daughter? She's the one everyone wanted to see," a reporter whispered. Chief's jaw tightened. He already knew. While he was shaking hands with dignitaries inside the ballroom, his phone buzzed. It was a viral Instagram story. Amina, dressed in a gold sequin mini dress, popping champagne on a private yacht in Tarkwa Bay with friends. The caption read, "Forget boring galas. This is the real life." The humiliation burned. That night, when they returned to the mansion, Amina was sprawled on the white leather sofa, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. Chief's voice thundered through the living room. "Stand up." She looked up lazily. "What's your problem?" "My problem," his chest heaved. "You embarrassed me in front of the entire city. Do you think this family name is a joke?" F.A. stepped in, placing a hand on his arm. "Chief, calm down." "No, F.A., she needs to hear this." His voice cracked with the force of years of unspoken frustration. "We took you from the streets, Amina. We gave you everything, a home, an education, a name people respect. And what do you give in return? Disrespect, shame." Amina's eyes glistened, but her chin remained high. I never asked you to take me. I never begged for your name. You wanted a daughter because you couldn't have one. I just happened to be convenient. The words were a slap that landed deep. For a moment, the room fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. Chief's hands trembled. Convenient? We loved you, maybe too much, but you've turned into someone I don't even recognize. Effe's eyes filled with tears. Amina, baby, this isn't you. I remember the little girl who clung to my hand, who cried when she got her first bicycle because she'd never had something so beautiful. What happened to her? For the first time, Amina's defiance cracked. She looked away, blinking rapidly. She learned the only way to survive in your world is to never be small again. The truth in her words hung heavy, stinging all three of them. Chief turned away, unable to look at her. If you keep going like this, you will destroy yourself, and I won't watch. He walked out, leaving Efe standing between them, torn in half. In that moment, the fault lines in their family became unmissable, and they all knew something irreversible had shifted. January in Lagos was supposed to be a fresh start, but for the Adeyemi household, it became the month everything cracked open. It started with a phone call Chief wished he had never received. He was in his Victoria Island office, going through project contracts, when his personal assistant rushed in, pale and trembling. "Sir, it's about Amina." The next words made his blood run cold. She had been arrested. According to the police, Amina and two of her wealthy friends had been caught drag racing their sports cars down Ozumbambadiwe Road at midnight. Not only was it reckless, but their stunt had caused an accident. A taxi driver had swerved to avoid them, crashing into a street vendor's stall. The vendor was in the hospital with a broken leg. When Chief arrived at the station, the sight of Amina behind the bars of the holding cell nearly stopped his heart. She still wore her glittering designer heels from the night before, but her makeup was smudged, her hair a tangled mess. "Daddy," she said, her voice small for the first time in years. Chief didn't move. He stared at her, something between rage and heartbreak twisting in his chest. "Do you have any idea what you've done? This is beyond shame." She lowered her eyes. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Bail was posted quickly. The Adeyemi name still carried weight, but the damage was already done. By the next morning, gossip blogs had splashed the story everywhere. Billionaire's daughter in midnight scandal trended across Nigerian Twitter. Chief's business rivals wasted no time whispering about how he couldn't even control his own household. That evening, Efe tried to mediate. "Chief, please, she's young. She made a mistake. Don't let the world destroy her." But Chief's voice was ice. "No, Efe, this is the consequence I warned about. She has no discipline because we never taught her any. We gave her everything, and in return she's given us public disgrace." In the days that followed, Amina retreated into her room, barely eating. But her pride was still a wall between her and any apology. She told herself she didn't care what people thought, but late at night she'd scroll through the online comments, her stomach knotting at the cruel words. One comment stuck with her: "She's proof that money can't buy upbringing." For the first time, the certainty she'd built her identity on, the luxury, the fame, the untouchable princess image, began to crumble. Chief, meanwhile, sat alone in his study most nights, staring at the adoption papers in a locked drawer. He remembered the girl under the Falomo Bridge, shivering in the rain, the promise he had made to protect her. Now he wondered if, in trying to protect her from the world, he had instead kept her from ever truly facing it. It was no longer just about regret. It was about deciding whether he could still save her or whether it was already too late. The turning point came 2 weeks after the arrest. It was a quiet Sunday morning, the kind where the streets outside the Adeyemi mansion were unusually calm, save for the faint hum of distant church choirs. Chief had been in his study, reading the day's headlines, when the door creaked open. Amina stood there, no makeup, no designer clothes, just an oversized t-shirt and jeans. Her eyes were puffy, as though she hadn't slept. "Daddy, can we talk?" Her voice was so small that for a moment Chief thought he had imagined it. He gestured to the chair opposite him. She sat, twisting her fingers together. For the first time in years, she didn't meet his gaze. "I've been thinking," she began, "about everything, about what you said that night and about the accident." Chief stayed silent, letting her speak. "I thought if I acted big enough, loud enough, nobody could see the girl I used to be, the girl under the bridge, the one who had nothing. I didn't want anyone to pity me. I thought if I kept proving I belonged in this life, I'd never lose it." She swallowed hard. "But I've been wrong, and I hurt people. I hurt you and Mum." Afe, who had been listening quietly from the doorway, stepped in, tears in her eyes. "Amina, you've always belonged, not because of the clothes or the parties, but because you're our daughter." Chief leaned forward, his voice heavy but softer than it had been in months. "Do you know why I regret some of my choices with you?" Amina shook her head. "Because I thought love meant giving you everything you wanted. I was afraid to say no, afraid to see you unhappy. But I realize now, love also means teaching, guiding, even if it's hard." Silence lingered for a moment, the air thick with things unsaid. Then Chief took a deep breath. "This stops today. If you truly want to change, I will help you. But it means no more endless spending, no more skipping school, no more running from responsibility. You will work in my company. You will start from the bottom, and you will earn what you have." Amina's eyes widened. "Work? Like an actual job?" "Yes," Chief said firmly. "You'll learn what it takes to build something, not just spend it." For a moment, she looked like she might argue, but then her shoulders dropped and she nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll try." It wasn't a perfect reconciliation. The wounds were too deep for instant healing, but something in that moment shifted. The princess mask she had worn for years slipped away, revealing the girl beneath, flawed, scared, but willing to try. Chief stood, walking around the desk. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we start tomorrow." In that quiet, fragile moment, both father and daughter made the decision that would shape the rest of their lives. To face each other, not as enemies in the same house, but as family finally willing to fight for something real. Monday morning came with an unusual stillness in the Adiemi mansion. Instead of sleeping in, Amina was up at dawn. She dressed simply, black trousers, a crisp white shirt Effie had ironed for her, and flat shoes. No glitter, no diamond-studded accessories. Chief was waiting by the car. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded. The ride to Adiemi Properties headquarters in Victoria Island was silent, but not tense. There was a quiet understanding between them, the kind that comes after a storm has passed, when both sides know the ground is still soft but safe enough to walk on. At the office, Chief didn't take her to the top floor where his suite was. Instead, he led her to the archives department in the basement. Rows upon rows of dusty files, humming old computers, and the smell of paper that had seen decades. "This is where you'll start," he said. "Data entry, record sorting, cross-checking property documents. It's not glamorous, but it's work that matters." The first week was exhausting. Her manicured fingers ached from typing. Her back hurt from bending over stacks of files. She spilled coffee on a folder once and nearly cried, expecting to be scolded. But the department head, Mrs. Aretti, simply handed her tissues and said, "Mistakes happen, learn from it." Outside work, changes crept into her life in small but real ways. She stopped demanding N500,000 for shopping sprees. She began helping Ife in the kitchen on Sundays, chopping vegetables while her mother told stories of her own humble upbringing in Benin City. One afternoon, while filing old property deeds, Amina stumbled upon a folder labeled Falomo Bridge Project. Inside were photographs of the site before development, and in one image she saw herself as a child, sitting by the roadside in that faded green dress. Her throat tightened. She closed the folder and sat in silence, realizing that the man who had adopted her had not only saved her from that life, but had also built something lasting for countless others. That evening she entered Chief's study without knocking. "Daddy, I found the photo." He looked up from his papers, and for the first time in a long while there was no tension in his eyes. "I kept it to remind myself why I made the choices I did." "I'm sorry," she said simply. It wasn't an elaborate speech, but it was the most genuine thing she'd said in years. Chief stood, walked over, and embraced her. "We can't change the past, Amina, but we can build the future together." In that moment, the weight between them lifted. The regret that had haunted him began to fade, replaced with the cautious hope that maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild what had been broken. And for the first time since she'd arrived in the Adeyemi mansion, Amina felt not like a guest or an ornament, but like a daughter. Months later, the Adeyemi household felt different. Not perfect, but real. Amina still had her moments of stubbornness, and Chief still carried the scars of his regret, but now there was honesty between them. One Saturday evening, they sat on the balcony overlooking Lagos Lagoon. The city lights shimmered on the water, the hum of traffic blending with distant Afrobeat music. "Do you ever miss it?" Amina asked suddenly. "Miss what?" Chief replied. "The girl under the bridge," she said softly, "before all this." Chief smiled faintly. "I missed the chance to protect her better the first time, but I'm grateful I still have the chance now." Amina leaned back, watching the lights dance. She wasn't sure what the future held, whether she'd stay in the family business, forge her own path, or stumble again. But she knew one thing. She didn't want to waste the second chance she'd been given. Down below, the city moved on, relentless, unpredictable, full of stories like hers. And somewhere in that restless hum, father and daughter sat side by side, still learning how to be a family, knowing their story was far from over. The lagoon breeze carried that promise into the night. If you've enjoyed this journey of love, trust, and second chances, don't miss out on more unforgettable stories. Hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Join our community, and let's continue exploring captivating tales that will touch your heart and leave you inspired. Subscribe now, because the best is yet to come.